weirdness today. I had a test and something's coming up tomorrow, so I had to push this up till Monday. So I do apologize if this is earlier than expected. Uh, as many of you know, my name is Walter Norton of Botluck Productions. This is our Digimon reviews, whereupon we go through the different Digimon in the reference library, and I give my opinion on the design, what I like, what I dislike, what I would change, and hopefully see them reach the perfect. As always, I go through a design, I give it about a look over, make some comments on it. I say what I like, what I dislike about the design, and they have to be something that's more than just, oh, it doesn't look like a Digimon or it feels like a Digimon. I have to be concrete with what I'm trying to say. And then I have to offer some sort of something that I would do to change the design. Outside of that, you guys are welcome to comment and ask me questions of reviews, my favorite Digimon, episodes I've seen, all that goes on. Yeah. Once I'm done going over my critique, I give about 30 seconds, and you can talk, we can discuss, things to help me catch my breath. So, with that out of the way, other little news, still working on the Area 51 review. Some things came up, both a test and my day job, so... Oh, excuse me. That must be the cola. But that's going to be worked on that's going to be worked on. Like I said, that's going to be the next review. Outside of that, don't have much else to add. No real big events coming up. So, yeah. Continuing forward with our look at the Digimon, we'll be going at Leomon X Antibody. So, here we'll describe what they say. To defeat more wicked Digimon and better live up to its ideals of justice, Leomon X Antibody has gone through strict training not just to strengthen its body, but also master swordsmanship. It fights by dual-wielding the long sword Yugamaru, which is also said to have grown sharper through use in countless battles, and the beast sword Shishaomaru. I don't know how to pronounce these words, I'm so sorry. Its skill is such that... Oh, there's a misspelling. That's funny. Its skill is such that it has come to be called the Beast Gladiator. It's gained its red cape in a struggle against a Mega Digimon, and the cape is widely regarded as a symbol of hero. A symbol of a hero. That makes me think that this is one of the older ones that they haven't really proofread. So, basically, we have Leomon, but if he's been reading a lot of Berserk. Yeah, I'm a bit convinced in this case they based Leomon on Guts. A combination of the big sword and also the gauntlets. I will say, though, this does feel more in line like a Dungeons and Dragons character rather than a Digimon, but if there's one thing we've seen with a lot of the X antibodies, the artwork can be a bit off compared to standard Digimon. That's not too weird, but it does happen. So, as for what I like about the design, it really, going off of this artwork, they seem to go a bit more towards... Again, the art style seen in the Berserk manga. Musculature, but a bit darker, if that makes any sense. Which, in the case of Leomon, works. It is interesting to see the pants. I assume that's pants. Again, one of the issues with artwork like this is it can be a bit hard to tell. I'm assuming that's pants. It's an interesting change between the pants and the musculature, as well as the cape. As for what I dislike, I think having the second sword is a bit excessive. You already have the big sword, and if I'm correct, even Guts in Berserk only carries one sword. He doesn't carry two. But I haven't seen or read much of Berserk, so I could be misremembering. I'm fairly certain this is a reference to Berserk. But I do feel having the second sword is a bit much. If you're going to have dual wielding swords, you kind of want to have the swords be similar, or have it where one sword is exceptionally big, another one being very small, more like a shield or a dagger. There's some form of fencing where you have a dagger as a protective tool. They're going more towards the big sword and slightly smaller sword, which I don't think really works, and if anything, overcomplicates the design. As for what I would do to change the design, about the only thing, this is where we're getting into difficulty from reading it. I'm assuming, okay, I was going to say that change one of the gauntlets to a mechanical hand similar to Guts, but going off of the gauntlets, that seems to be what they're already doing. I think if I were to change this design, the big thing I would do is omit one of the swords, probably the smaller one, and add a shoulder pad. Again, similar to Guts. Really what I'm saying is make this look like Guts from Berserk. You're already 90% there. You might as well finish it up. As for, is it worthwhile compared to the standard Leomon with X antibody? I do think so. I think this is a worthy change to the design. Maybe adding the X to the sword or somewhere to indicate X antibody, but this case, other than that, I'd say this hits the perfect. This is, again, something to hit. Granted, going towards Berserk might be clouding my judgment. But yeah, to say what I like about the design, I like that they took obvious inspiration from Guts. What I don't like the second sword. I think that's a bit excessive. And if I were to change it, realistically, omit one of the swords, add a pauldron, and maybe add an X either to the sword or the chest. But yeah, this hits a perfect. This is kind of what I'm looking for with the design. So, 30 seconds. By the way, if you hear any rings, my phone goes off. I kind of have to keep it on because there might be someone trying to contact me about things. But yeah, I'd say we're off to a pretty good start today. And with that, we're moving on to the next Digimon. Leomon. A holy beast Digimon exuding the air of a king, even at champion level. Leomon is said to be the Digivolution of Lailamon, but there are even fewer of them in the wild, so it's an elusive entity. It prefers capturing prey stronger than itself, and is occasionally witnessed dauntlessly attacking even Mega Digimon. It unleashes its special move, Thunder of the King, by charging and shooting off electricity generated in its mane, or aims unerringly for the enemy's vitals using its fangs with critical strike. So basically we have a lion. They took a lion, they added in hoop earrings, braided, well, not really braided, but beaded beads into his mane, and they added the traditional dual tail seen by Nekomata, if I'm correct. Really, I don't have any problems with the design. It's a lion, and it is interesting that they did add some extra little flares so that it's not just a lion. The addition of the earrings is a good touch, as is the beads. I think that was a great call on the designers to do that. So I will say that's what I like about the design. I like the use of the hoop rings and the beads in the main. What I dislike, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the dual tail. Um, I don't like. I can understand if that was used for like a Nekomata Digimon, but for a Lion Digimon that doesn't really fit. Um, but I can understand where they're going for, and it does add a difference compared to making it a standard lion. So I'm not going to ding points off of it. As for what I would change, as much as I want to say I would remove the one of the tails, I recognize that if I were to do that, it would just turn this into a bog standard lion. I think if I were to change this, keep the tails, keep the ornaments because they really do work. I think I would want to add some kind of crown or something to the head to indicate that this is a king. Or maybe, or even says holy beast. Maybe add a holy ring to one of its legs or one of its tails to indicate this is a holy Digimon. I am kind of going into Trench Crusade a bit for this. What would I add from Trench? Where was I going with that? I do think maybe adding a crown would help, especially with the what's that lion called? It's usually associated with Rastafarians and Ethiopia. The Lion of Judah? I think it's called the Lion of Judah, but I could be wrong. I would add some kind of crown, possibly as a reference to that, although I don't know if that would cause problems. The point is, I would want to add some kind of holy ring or some kind of something extra to indicate this isn't just we copied a lion with additions. But other than that, I do like the design, and much like Leomon X Antibody, it does get the perfect. I will say one last thing. I don't see much of the connection with electricity, so But yeah, I do like the design. I like that they took a lion and they changed it up. I like the addition of the ornaments around on the ear and in the mane. Not the best fan of the dual tail. I understand why they add it, and I can understand what would happen if it's omitted, but it works. If I were to change it, I would add either a holy ring on one of its legs, or even a crown. But otherwise, pretty good design. So get 30 seconds. I need to check something. All right. So moving on from the lions, because we've had a lot of lions this session. Lian Pumon. Okay. A mutant Digimon donning a characteristic mask. The jovial Lian Pumon loves festive revelry, swapping masks on the fly to liven up the mood. When it peels off a mask, another mask instantly appears from below, so no one ever sees its real face. Lian Pumon is practically speechless, expressing its emotions instead of gestures. Let me rephrase that. Lian Pumon is practically speechless, expressing its emotions instead through gestures or mask changes. Theory has it that the masks in Lian Pumon's cape resemble Digimon that it gets along with. It shows technical tactics in battle, demonstrating a variety of abilities by swapping out its masks. Lian Pumon's expressionless cast iron facet mask rapidly boosts its defense, hardening its body like ore. When allies are hurt, it puts on the mask of affection, the devotion visage. This lets it distribute its data into injuries it touches, healing them quickly. Leon Pomon uses its special move, that word, mask attack, to don its mask of anger and hurl masks it has on hand like shuriken. Okay, so I was a bit confused with where they were going with this design until I noticed that it's a small monkey-like thing wearing masks. I don't know if this is a reference to Journey to the West. I don't think it is, and I actually don't think this has ever appeared in the anime. If it has, I've never seen it, and it's not one of the Cross Wars Digimon, I don't think. So I'm not exactly certain. I don't think this has ever appeared in the anime. As a concept, I'm okay with it. It is a bit complex as a design. This isn't really a design I like because it leans toward, it's a bit too when you start adding masks like this, it becomes a bit complex because then you have to add different masks. In this case, they simplified it by adding different Digimon. This is a design that may be a bit too complex for what it is. If I were to, I mean, I like the idea of the mask, of a masked Digimon using different masks, but I don't think this design works well. It's overly complex, especially once you add in the body. Because I thought that this was just a mask with a cape. If I were to change this design, either I would omit the ape, and just have like the two hands with the mask that constantly swap back and forth, or make the ape more noticeable. Because as is, this gets lost very quickly and it becomes a bit hard to read. That's kind of the problem with this design. It's a bit too difficult to read. I'm not a big fan of this design. Like I said, I like the concept, but the execution isn't there. So to recap what I like the concept. What I don't like, it's overly complex. It's a bit hard to tell what exactly you're looking at other than the masks. If I were to change this, I would omit the ape creature in the center and just keep it that there's some kind of mask that's in the center and two hands. Otherwise, no. I don't think this works. So, 30 seconds. How are you guys doing, by the way? Slow day, I see. Move on to the next Digimon. Lugarmon. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A dark beast Digimon with a body that generates enormous amounts of magic. The amount of magic it produces is so great that it constantly releases excess magic in the form of flames that pour out of its mouth. These flames are so powerful that Lugarmon can turn its surroundings to ash with a single roar. As the flames are born of magic, they burn for a long time. Those who fall victim to its burn are dealt a greater injury than they may have expected. The antiquated interface on its forehead has led researchers to presume that Lugarmon is a digivolution of a prototype Digimon. Its special moves include Howling Burner, a beam of flame that charges up and shoots from its mouth, and Flame Blow, in which it covers its body in magical flames and tackles its opponent. So, Lugarmon. We have a wolf Digimon. it's the champion form of Lugamon, if I remember that. They don't have that thing. It's the champion form. Happy Monday. Yes, happy Monday, Randomon 5658. We're just going through the L's at this point. We're on Lugarmon. Lugarmon. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to pronounce these Digimon. Kind of at Lugarmon. We have here a wolf Digimon. Given this line's connection to wolves and Fenrir, I kind of suspect that this is a reference to the time when Fenrir was chained down and had to be tested, where he eventually bit, what was his name? Tyr's hand off. My knowledge of Norse mythology is pretty much from Digimon. But we have a wolf Digimon. It's interesting that they emphasize it's not fire, it's magic that it has a lot of, which is an interesting specification, because usually they just go, oh, it's fire, but they specified it's magic and it creates a lot of fire. I'm not certain of Fenrir's connection to magic other than Loki, so I can't really comment how close that is. But it is, from a design aspect, it's simple, but it works. We are leaning towards the overcomplicated design language that Digimon sometimes leans toward. I like the idea of a fire wolf. It's interesting. It kind of reminds me of a thunder wolf. Maybe I should get a model of this 3D printed and have a space wolf riding on the back. But I digress. Things about this design I like. I like the use of a muzzle with the fire. It reminds us that yes, fire's coming out of this. And the fur being all jagged also adds to that. And the mane around. They're really leaning into it's burning, but it's not really fire. I kind of like the big gauntlets. It, again, reminds me of the story of Fenrir. What I don't like about the design, I think they went a bit overboard with the forward forearm spikes. It's a bit excessive, and it kind of overcomplicates the design. I'm okay with them around the neck and on the tail because, big inferno. But I think for the forearms, these should have been not as excessive because it really pulls from the body. And for this design, I would think you'd want to pull more towards the head because that's where the fire's coming out of, because you have that muzzle. If I were to change this design, I would probably make these fur fire elements lower, smaller, not as taking much space. I would probably also want to add some element of chain to the forearms, again as a reference to Fenrir. Although they may be coming a case with Fenlugamon, but we'll see when we get there. Overall, it's a design I like. I will give it the perfect. I have a soft spot for wolf-style Digimon. Not to the same extent as Dorumon, but, it's there. So to recap what I like about the design, I like the wolf aspect as well as implementing that it's burning, but it's through magic. It has an excess of magic, not that it's throwing fire everywhere. They explain where that fire is coming from. And I do like the use of a flame muzzle. What I dislike, I think the arm fur spikes are a bit overly complex and they detract a bit too much they move your eyes a bit away from the face. What I'm saying is these are excessive. These are a bit too much. And if I were to change the design, I would probably make these smaller and maybe add some chain to the forelimbs, the forearm limbs. But other than that, it's a very good design, and I do give it the perfect. So, yeah, 30 seconds. But yeah, happy Monday. Had a lot happen today. Passed a test, and yeah. All right. Machmon. At least I assume it's pronounced Machmon and not Machmon. An android Digimon in the pursuit of speed. Dust clouds on otherwise empty plains are usually caused by Machmon's wild rides. Although Machmon resembles a motorcycle, it lacks any seat, nor does it have any intention of letting someone ride it. Despite this, it believes that it will find a Digimon destined to drive it skillfully one day. A natural-born delinquent, Machmon is hostile to all things that move at high speeds. It uses its special move, Full Throttle Edge, to dice up the enemy with blades protruding all over. Add Madness Fire to indiscriminately fire the 4 gun muzzles attached to the side of its front wheel. Oh, I didn't realize it had Mad Max guns. So basically we have a motorcycle Digimon. Looks like something that Orange County Choppers would make. Okay, for those who don't know, Orange County Choppers, aka the company that worked on American Choppers, they had a tendency to make motorcycles that looked very flashy and good on the showroom floor. But if you actually drove them, you would realize just how terrible they are. This kind of reminds me of that kind of idea of, here's a motorcycle that looks very cool on the showroom floor, but you would not want to ride it. It also reminds me, there was a line of toys that Lego had just before Bionicle. Let me quickly look them up so that... I'm trying to find it on Lego's thing. Well, that's weird. Okay, so the line I'm referring to was a toy line called Robo Riders. So, for those who don't know, Lego before Bionicle was experimenting with different toys. And this is coming off of Brickpedia, just to give you an idea as to what I'm referring to. A lot of this type of toy. Like I said, this is early. This is like 90s Lego. They got rid of these right before Bionicle. And that's kind of what this reminds me of. These motorcycle toys that they look like a motorcycle, but they wouldn't function like a motorcycle. I also wasn't aware that this had 2 machine guns up front, so we're also going into a bit of Mad Max. So I like the concept. I like the idea of well, I like remembering that toy line. Um, it's interesting to look back on it. As for what I dislike about the design, maybe a bit too many horns. Um, if I were to change this, I think what I would do is I would omit the two front horns, maybe add them somewhere else on the design. But other than that, the concept works. I like the idea. I wouldn't say it's perfect because this feels more like something you'd add to another Digimon, a second part, rather than an actual Digimon on its own. But it's there. It's close. Um, I think maybe a bit more mechanical elements. This feels a bit too organic at times. So the recap. What I like about the design, I like the motorcycle idea, and it reminds me of Robo Riders. I think what I dislike is the horns. I think those are a bit excessive. And if I were to change it, I would omit the horns or put them elsewhere on the design. Uh, so yeah. Excuse me for a moment. I have to do something real quick. When I come back, we're going to go to the next Digimon. I do apologize about that. I had to do something off screen. So, yeah, I do apologize. So, with that, we're going to move on to our next Digimon. By the way, if you're ever using expanding foam, please be careful. That stuff can mess up clothes. So, Mad Leomon. A berserker that strengthened its combat instinct while sacrificing its intellectual capacity. Once a lion species Digimon, Madleomon modified itself again and again until it became like this. Its consciousness disappeared in this process, transforming it into a puppet that defeats those who stand before it. As commanded. Madleomon moves by instinct and lacks any thoughts, always charging madly ahead without regard to tricks or traps. While fundamentally powerful, it doesn't have a vast array of attack fundamentals, sticking instead to punches or kicks. Even so, Madleomon's sharp claws contain poison that rots everything, so caution is warranted. The only attack that can be considered a special move is Beast Blaster, which shoots a blast of energy in the shape of a lion's face. Any who stand in the way of this blast will be sent flying as they are torn to shreds. So basically we have a Leomon that, unfortunately, has rabies, more or less. So, going off of the design, obviously looks mad. Looks more visceral compared to a standard Leomon. This was from Cross Wars, so bear that in mind. But compared to a lot of the Cross Wars Digimon, this one actually looks decent. It doesn't look like a weird amalgamation, which a lot of times Beast Wars does. Yeah. So things I like that they took Leomon and made him a monster, a Frankenstein monster-esque thing. Like, this looks like someone took Leomon and brought them back to life, and it failed. Excuse me. I'm assuming that the white stuff near its mouth is foam, which occurs when an animal has rabies, which is what I'm assuming they're doing here. Really, this is, from a concept and art design, it works. What I don't like about the design, about the only thing I don't like is it doesn't look rotted enough. I think it needs more like exposed ribs, exposed bones to indicate this thing is dead. As for what I would change, I would probably want to add like spiked knuckles or bone knuckles to the arms. Maybe one of the arms being exceptionally rotted, maybe almost like its bone. Perhaps even make the tail bone. But overall, this is a perfect design. They did an amazing job with this, and this is a Cross Wars Digimon. So to recap what I like that they took Leomon and made it a monster. I like that idea, and I like the execution. If I were to change it, I would probably add bone knuckles and maybe more rot. As for what I dislike, not rotted enough. Not rotted enough. The purple skin, you need a little more. So, 30 seconds. And with that, we move on to our next Digimon. Something messed up. Okay, are we still here? Okay. Something weird had happened. I had to quickly check on my computer with something. Okay. Madleomon Armed Mode. Mad Leomon Armed Mode adds a chainsaw and other modifications. Countless modifications and the unbalanced chainsaw cause savage pain to ripple through its body, and Raging Mad Leomon Armed Mode. This pain prevents it from staying in place, causing it to view everything it sees as an enemy and attack. The lion sleep tonight. Did they really do that? The lion sleeps tonight causes it to cleave through all things living or otherwise, moving as if although trying to shake the chainsaw off its arm. A lion sleeps with its stomach is full, that is, when its prey upon its foe. The lion... A lion sleep... Is this... Okay, this is starting to lean towards poetry. The lion must defeat its foes to rest. Lionheart brings its destructive impulses to the surface as it slams its roaring chainsaw into the earth, creating a fissure in the ground to swallow the enemy. The torn and broken earth is a reflection of this Digimon's heart. Okay, so they're being exceptionally poetic. So, Mad Leomon Armed Mode, we went more towards, well, a cybernetic monster. It certainly feels like a dangerous beast, especially with the chainsaw and the addition of armor. Really, I can understand not adding in the rot because, yeah, it's got held together with armor. I like the idea of going more towards horror. What I dislike is, why is this a champion? This is leaning more towards an ultimate. This should not be a champion. It looks too strong for its level, and I think we're starting to see the problems that Cross Wars had where it really messed around with the levels. This should be an ultimate or even an ultimate level Digimon. As for what I would change, realistically, move it out of the champion into ultimate. From a design point, maybe add some kind of inflammation around the chainsaw area to indicate its pain. I really don't have much I can say that I dislike about this design. I like this design. The problem is it's not a champion. This is in its wrong classification. It should be in the next level to really emphasize this is a dangerous beast. And unfortunately, that's not what they're doing here. So again, to emphasize, I like the rotted out appearance. It looks great. I dislike that it's considered a champion. And if I were to change it, probably add some more elements to show its pain and move it out of the champion, because this is not a champion level Digimon. This is an ultimate. So 30 seconds. Am I coming all right on the mic? So we're seeing another Cross Wars Digimon, Mailbird Dramon. A predatory flying Digimon, it surveys battles from the sky and specializes in support assaults using hit-and-run tactics to inflict precise damage on enemies. Mailbird Dramon's movements are quick and its eyes are sharp. Its Nighthawk technique utilizes its strengths to the fullest, as it closes in and unleashes aerial bombardments on foes without them noticing. Plasma Cannon has enough power to exterminate the enemy as it fires ultra-high energy plasma bullets from its mouth at point-blank range. Male Birdramon's overall fighting strength is significantly higher than Digimon who possess only melee skills. Because it always analyzes the flow of battle from above, it boosts a cool and calculating personality that allows for excellent judgment. So, we have a flying Digimon, obviously. They're going a lot into the bird concept. It's a Cross Wars Digimon, which, as Billiam has said, a lot of them feel like they're for toys. And this really does feel like a Transformer or one of those action figure toys that you could get. I don't know if they ever made this into a toy, but it wouldn't surprise me. For the design, it does feel, for a concept of a mechanical bird, it works. It feels like something that causes a lot of destruction from a support distance. What I dislike is it doesn't feel like it's offering Intel support. If I were to change this design, and what I mean by Intel support, it looks like a jet, just a bog standard jet. And aircraft that provide air support or intelligence, they tend to lean a little bit less into weapons and more into optical gear. So if this was supposed to be an analyzing Digimon or a coordinating Digimon, I would expect to see cameras and other SIGINT, signals intelligent gear on it. If I were to change this design, I would probably add a radar dish. If you ever play Ace Combat games, you'll generally notice that one of the aircraft that supports your air wing is... they're usually large aircraft with an odd dish on top. Those are AWACS planes. Basically, air traffic control planes in the sky. They're usually used for coordinating other aircraft in an area while also providing signals intelligence. And if I were to change this design, I would probably add a big radar dish like that on the top to indicate that this is a support Digimon. It's providing AWACS support for the rest of the ground forces. It's providing air traffic control, air control asset. Still have some small weapons like the missiles on the legs, but really emphasize that this is a support Digimon. And for future evolutions, you can even use the AWACS dish for a shield or something. But overall, it's an okay design. It's just one that I think leans a bit too much into the toyetic aspect. This really does feel like it was a prototype for a toy. So what I like that they went towards a flying mechanical bird. I dislike that it doesn't really feel like a supporting Digimon or an AWACS. And if I were to change it, I would add that AWACS dish and maybe some other intel gathering equipment on it to emphasize this is a support Digimon. So, 30 seconds. Not much going on today. Earlier today, I took a test for drone piloting. I was able actually to pass, so now I just got to wait for the FAA to send me my paper. Yay! So, next. Trying to remember where I was. Manikimon. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. A puppet Digimon that is a simulated data on the Maneki Neko. Contrary to its cute appearance, a punch from its oversized right arm can shatter slabs of rock. The device attached to Manikimon's right paw serves to attract things towards it, but instead of bringing good fortune, the beckoning motions are used to lure in and attack victims. Manikimon's special moves include Koben Toss, with which it can make Koben, oval gold coins, appear from its paws before throwing them as projectiles. Its welcoming Fist special move couples its right paw's device power of attraction with raw punching strength and can easily knock out even mightier Digimon with clear hit. So I believe this Digimon appeared first for Shambhala, I mean to say. And of course, it's the lucky cat yokai, the one that you oftentimes see at a lot of Chinese restaurants with a cat that does this. It's interesting because I wouldn't have expected them to emphasize that hand. I kind of thought, oh, it's just going to be a basic cat. So I do like that we have another cat and it's not just a Gatomon. Cool. Yeah. Getting the license was interesting. Also, the Digimon's cool. Um, as for what I dislike with the Digimon, I do think the top knot is a bit excessive. I'll also say I'm not a big fan of making it asymmetrical, but given what this is a reference towards, I, I I'm willing to look past this because it does it really does bring your eyes towards it a lot like those lucky cat statues. Other things I like, that's things I dislike. What I do like is they do emphasize that hey, this thing isn't normal to the Digimon. We don't see that a lot with modern Digimon, and it's interesting that they went back to it with this. If you notice real close on the arm, there's some veins, and it looks pretty inflamed and pretty nasty looking. We don't see that a lot on modern Digimon, but it's interesting to see them go back to this. As for what I would change, I think what I would want to change is maybe add one of those oval coins, maybe either on, say, a coin catcher on the side that you see at some arcades and at Sonic drive-thrus, maybe even a coin dispenser on the arm, somewhere to show us that that's where the oval coins are. I would also omit this top knot. Again, I'm not a big fan of the top knot, and it reads more of fire. Personally, I would say go more towards like the coin on the forehead, like Meowth from Pokemon. Although I recognize why they can't do that because copyright. So I'm not going to give it the perfect. This isn't really a design I'm too wild about. Again, it's because of the arm, but I understand why they're doing it. So to recap what I like the idea of taking those statues and turning them into a Digimon. And they really went out of the way with the arm. I may not be the biggest fan of this, but the fact that I know what it's referencing helps alleviate that. Plus, I do like the return to the this is not normal attachment to the Digimon. What I dislike, I don't like that top knot. That's like the main thing I dislike. And if I were to change it, I would omit the top knot and add more of those coins around the Digimon to emphasize, hey, this thing throws coins. Which it really doesn't. Which, as far as this design is, it doesn't. It's very close to getting the perfect, I will say. So, 30 seconds. But yeah, today's been pretty busy for me, pretty productive, I'd like to say. Between this and taking a test. And messing with expanding foam for home repairs. I don't like messing with expanding foam. Manta-Raymon, X-Antibody. So, hold on. Did we skip one? Because I don't remember Manta-Raymon. Hold on. That's why I don't recognize it. It's an armor. For those who don't know, and the website's decided to not work right. What the? So, for those who don't know, as much as I want to say that the armors are champions, we're going to go off of the encyclopedia. Later on, I would like to do a section of these where I look at the where I look at the armors. But for the time being, we're just going to look at the champions and the armors separately. So, to read off. Manta Raymon X Antibody. Any and all state capabilities have been improved to prevent it from being discovered by other Digimon. The level structure of its bodies makes Manta Raymon X Antibody harder to detect on enemy radars, and uses emissions to confuse their sense of smell, as well as the ability to move while barely making any sound. Its body is not invisible, however, so its eyesight is improved to enable it to spot enemies first, and it now makes evasive maneuvers in advance of an approaching foe. These abilities make Manta Raymon X Antibody hard to capture, even if you know there's one nearby. Even so, you can instantly grasp its whereabouts on the light of Stun Needle, as well as electrified explosives of Paralyzed Bomb, its new special move. So basically, they've taken a Manta Ray and, from it looks like, armored it up. It looks like a dangerous... So there's a difference between a Stingray and a Manta Ray, and I have to remind myself this. Stingrays are more of like a circle thing. Manta Rays are more of flopping with the little tiny sensors on the front. So, yeah, they're going... To me, the design feels a bit too thin for a Manta Ray, because I've seen some big Manta Rays. And this looks more like a flying fish to me. So I think that's one of the problems this design has. What I like about the design, it does feel like a mechanical stealth thing that can destroy things. But what I dislike is it doesn't feel big. Manta Rays are, at least from what I've seen, are big animals. And this doesn't feel like a big animal. If anything, this feels more like a lobster. Or like a sea scorpion. And that doesn't really work with a Manta Ray. As for what I would change with this design, beefier, bigger animal, maybe add some extra fins up front to go towards that Manta Ray aspect. And because X Antibody, add X's to the design to emphasize X Antibody. It's an okay design, but it's not what I'm expecting out of this level. It's okay, but for a Manta Ray, it's not hitting what I'm looking for. And we're also dealing with the fact that I didn't recognize that this is an X Antibody of an armor. So that's also messing things up. When we go through the armors, we're going to address that. That'll be after the champions. Because as far as I'm concerned, most of the armor Digimon are basically champion level. And we don't have that many armor Digimon. Overall, it's an okay design, but I feel it's not hitting the aspect that well. So the recap, I like that it looks like a stealth Digimon, but I dislike that it doesn't feel like a Manta Ray. It feels too small for a Manta Ray. If I were to change it, I would beef up the design, make this look beefier, maybe add some extra fin stabilizers, and of course add the X's. It's not a bad design. It's close, but it does need a little bit of fixes here and there. Actually, we're going to give it 30 seconds before... I forgot. I'm jumping the gun. 30 seconds. I'm going to hold off on Meikumon because I do like Meikumon, and I like cats, so I kind of want to hold off Meikumon and Micomon for next session. But yeah, we're going to end session because I like my cats. As I said, still working on the Area 51 review. That's going to take a bit of time, although it is slowly moving through. hopefully we can get through more of the reference manual. We have a lot to go. But yeah, remember to like and subscribe, and I guess I'll see you all in 2 weeks, provided nothing crazy goes. So, bye!